Hello everyone, welcome to the Pisces Guide to Pop Culture. I'm of course your host TJ. I want to come to you today to talk about something that's near and dear to my heart, and I'm talking of course about books. I just started my new job as the social media person over at the local library, so I'm very much thinking about books today, and I'm also thinking about some new data that came out that suggests that the reading for pleasure is on the decline, but the people who do it are doing it more, and so I want to sort of do a little bit of outreach to those who may not be readers, may not consider themselves readers, might have reasons why they don't like to read. And I'm sort of going to think of this as an ongoing series to talk about why we read, why we should read, what we get out of reading, why we get out of reading for pleasure. And, so today I'm just going to start with like why I read and why I think it's a valuable thing to do. I read for a whole host of reasons, but one of them is that I read to get out of the world, that I read to imagine the world seen otherwise. And I read, obviously, all sorts of things. I read fiction, I read nonfiction, I read all across genres. But one of the things that I think reading books, that are out of your own perspective is that they do give you an addition, like a richer, deeper understanding of the world and the human condition. Now, I know that probably sounds a little bit blasé or a little bit, I don't know, cliche to some people, but I do think that, it's very easy for all of us to get wrapped up in our own ideas, our own thoughts, our own baggage, and that's completely understandable. But I do think that it's worth sometimes getting out of that, and books provide us a means of doing it. They're by no means the only means that we have to do that. Obviously, there are movies, there's TV shows, there's YouTube, whatever people watch or read, or whatever they do to get out of themselves. But the thing about reading that I think is so special is that because it requires such, sustained attention, that it requires you to really sort of suspend yourself, and it really gets you out of your own mind. I think we're living in a very hyper-specialized, hyper-personalized world, and while I think many people celebrate that, and while there is a lot to be said for it, I also think that it's worth thinking more deeply about what we're giving up when we embrace this. Don't explore new things. Here's the algorithm will tell you what you've already seen, and here's a whole lot more of it. And it's very addictive. It's very easy to get swept up into that, and I'm not obviously judging, but I do think that reading for pleasure is such a powerful, potent, emotionally resonant escape. For me, of course, as a Pisces and just as someone who loves escapist literature in its various forms, as romance, sci-fi, fantasy, it gives me an opportunity to inhabit worlds, inhabit minds, inhabit points of view that are not my own and that are beyond my own experience. And that's true of writing as well. I mean, all writing is autobiographical to some degree, so obviously most of my characters in my work are some aspect of my personality or express something that I'm grappling with. But when I read things that are written by other people, even then, I'm encountering other points of view just by the very nature of creation. And that's the thing about reading. It's not just about encountering stories. It's also about entering different points of view, at different minds, different people who think differently than we do. And that is a really powerful skill that we learn. We learn different kinds of emotion, we learn different kinds of worlds, we learn different kinds of sense making, and I think that that's really valuable. We live in such a hyper partisan, hyper individualized world that we lose something when we don't do that kind of reading, and there can be pleasure in that. You can embrace these kinds of reading and take joy and pleasure in them. I don't know how we solve the problem of literacy or of reading for pleasure. I think it's a good. I think it's something that has a tangible material difference. And as I've said throughout this, short video, that is inhabiting other mindsets, inhabiting other worlds. And, I think that since it's so easy for so many of us to silo ourselves away in our digital spaces and even in sometimes our physical spaces, that has a real, not great influence and a not great results and a not great, influence on our culture and how we think of ourselves and how we think of our neighbors and even our friends and family. But if we can find ways of connecting through difference, if we can read people that we might not have encountered in the real world, if we can find these things that are in writing and take joy and take pleasure in it, that's the thing. So much of this is about pleasure. I mean, I read so much for pleasure, and I hope that maybe this video and my enthusiasm will sweep you up in it. I mean, there's a whole host of reasons. I'm sure I'll have literally hundreds of reasons why you should read for pleasure, but I just wanted to take this, moment, since I hadn't done a spiel yet on why it is so powerful and so important, and I would even argue life-giving. When you read for pleasure, you really just kind of open up a whole new world, and that's true of young people, old people, teenagers, 20-somethings. If you're out there and maybe you don't think you're a reader, just give it a try. It's like I say with writing. You may not think of yourself as a writer, but I think that, but in most of us, there's the yearning for stories and connection, and books can provide that. And I think that it's worth exploring and worth continuing to do and to, engage with in whatever way you can. So if you would like to, go to your local library, go to your local bookstore. They can tell you based on what you're interested in, what you might like to read. So anyway, think about reading for pleasure. I think you'll find that there's a lot to take away from it. This is just one bibliophile's point of view. I'm sure there are many others. So anyway, go out and read for pleasure. I think it'll do you a lot of good. So as always, thanks so much for joining me here at Pisces Guide to Pop Culture. I appreciate everyone. Good to be back on a regular schedule. So anyway, thanks so much for joining me today. I'm your host, TJ. Take care, y'all.